What is going on, Hive Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about something extremely important. Does intermittent fasting cause gallstones? Can they cause gallstones to build up within your gallbladder? Has intermittent fasting finally met his match? We're going to go ahead and tackle that in this video. Stay tuned. Is there always going to be a kryptonite to every single possible thing that you can do, be it for nutrition or just overall health? There are so many different diets that you could partake in, and there are so many different things that you can do, but intermittent fasting has had so many different shields when it comes to things like, well, what about muscle loss? Well, intermittent fasting increases your human growth hormone. Intermittent fasting does other secretions with your hormones to make sure that your body remains anabolic. What about losing energy? Intermittent fasting has shown to help increase energy. What about losing weight? Intermittent fasting has shown to burn body fat specifically over all other items that burn via energy secretion. But one thing that this channel has not touched on is gallstones. And one doctor that I definitely respect and look up to is Professor Valter Longo, a professor in gerontology and biological science. He's a heavy advocate for fasting, and he has done multiple studies on fasting itself. He's pushed for the use of fasting specifically for longevity, also for nutrition and health and weight loss. But he mentioned one interesting fact. He mentioned one interesting thing when it came to intermittent fasting. And that interesting thing is that based on a study that he referenced, if you fast for more than 15 hours, you can increase your chances of building up gallstones in your gallbladder. Now, let me explain a little bit about what this is before I dive into most likely the study he was referring to. The reason that this has been hypothesized with gallstones in your gallbladder correlated to fasting is simply because of this. Your liver creates the bile, and then it moves the bile into your gallbladder. But your gallbladder is more of a storage unit. It's almost like if you had something and you're going to use it later on, you'll just put it in your book bag. So you are the liver, your book bag is the gallbladder, and the bile is whatever item you're putting in your book bag. When that happens in your body, and this is where that metaphor kind of falls apart, just wanted you to understand what the gallbladder is, more of a storage unit than anything else. But what ends up happening is cholesterol gets secreted in there if you're not eating, if you're not consuming anything. And then multiple different biological chemicals can start to go in there, and then it can start creating these hardened kind of materials. It could be different colors, different shapes and sizes, but it becomes so hard that it's basically like a stone, which is why it's called gallstones, because it's hard like a rock and it resides in your gallbladder. Your gallbladder is one of the smallest organs that you have in your body. It's not very big. It's probably, I want to say, this big inside of your body, between your liver. It's between the left and right lobe of your liver, and it sits right there. If you produce gallstones and you get a lot of gallstones there, it will be massive pain, massive pain, unbearable pain. I'm not talking about ouch, I think that hurts. Usually it's like pain, like something is pulling inside of your tissue, and it's very painful. And then there's nausea that comes with it. There's vomiting that comes with it. You'll have to do like an ultra abdominal scan to see if you have gallstones, but they can test it to see if you have it, and then they'll have to remove it via surgery. Is it dangerous to have gallstones? Yes, it is. And the reason that is because if it blocks the pathway, if those stones move around in your gallbladder and eventually just gets lodged in between where the pathway is for it to excrete the bile into the stomach area so that it can digest your food, then that can literally be fatal. You could actually die from that. It's very severe that happens. So please understand that it is important that you try not to get into a position where you create gallstones in your body. Now, with that being said, you do need to understand that there's hereditary factors, there's different people, different biological things that can happen to certain people over other people that can be more susceptible to have gallstones. I know you guys want a black and white, but this isn't black and white. It's biology, and it's more gray than anything else. and it's something that you have to accept. Weight loss in and of itself, when people lose weight, can create gallstones. Even if you don't do intermittent fasting, if you want to just lose weight, that can produce gallstones. That's a possibility of you getting gallstones simply because of weight loss. Now that you know what gallstones are, let me talk about the study that he may have been referencing. There have been other studies. There was a study done in 2006. There was a meta-analysis study done in 2013. There was a 1991 study done, and there was a 1980 study. Now, the study that I believe he was referring to was a 1991 study. Now, in this study, they used over 4,700 women, and they took information just like data analysis from medical records and stuff like that. And from the 4,700 women, 216 of them had gallstones. They were confirmed that they had gallstones in their body. But what this looked at was simply increased overnight fasting, not normal fasting, just increased overnight fasting. They woke up, kind of skipped breakfast, and then ate a little bit later on. But that was one aspect of what they were looking at. They were also looking at their diet, and sometimes they didn't do increased overnight fasting. They just looked at so many different things, but increased overnight fasting was one of the issues. Now, the problem with this is that they're consistently looking at overnight fasting or increased overnight fasting. And what that means is that when you wake up and you don't eat breakfast, and then you kind of eat like right before lunch, you just don't eat breakfast when you wake up, or you don't eat right away when you wake up. You take some time, a few hours later, and then you eat. And this can generally have you fasting for a period of about 10 to 15 to 16 hours. So they tested, from 10, 16 hours as the max. And when they looked at that, they saw, increases in like cholesterol secretion in the bile. And then other studies have shown that similar effect with increased overnight fasting. But although if you hit all those bullet points and you just look at it in a blank slate and you think about it, okay, well, if you fast, your gallbladder has no reason to put bile in your stomach, because then why would it need to do that if you're not digesting anything specific? Which is very true. That makes sense. But then here's the thing. The body still has to account for the fact that you will fast. The body still has to have a kind of survival mechanism or a secondary mechanism for if you're going to fast. And there was a study done that actually went further than just the simple 16 hours, which most of these studies do 16 hours. There was a study done that actually showed that after a certain period of time, that secretion of cholesterol and the increased possibility of gallstones in your bile inside of your liver actually starts to drop again back to around the same level it was at the 10-hour mark. So it's like from 10 hours, it's over here, 15, 16 hours, then you hit 20 hours and it goes back and kind of matches where the 10-hour thing was. Your body actually starts to do some release of those hazardous bile material to kind of protect you. Now, if you continue to fast, if you do prolonged fasting for a long time, they have shown studies of people who do 7-day fasts and they show, gallstones in their body. And that's because you're giving your body no choice after such a long time of fasting. But your body has internal mechanism that it can use to try to combat those gallstones in your body. I know a lot of people who are trying to defend intermittent fasting tries to simplify this fact and just simply say, oh, it's not just about fasting, it's about other reasons. It's about how much you have in your stomach or how much cholesterol. Fasting can actually assist in adding those biological chemicals inside your body that can be hazardous, that can cause gallstones if you go for a long time and if you go for a long time unchecked. So yes, there's so many great benefits to losing weight, fasting for a long time, but you have to be very careful. Now, this is not going to happen to everyone. There have been studies done with over 400 people where just 16 people got it and the rest of them didn't. Is this automatically going to happen to you when you do fasting? No. But like the study mentioned, after the 15-hour period, when it starts to get to the 20-hour period, it starts to drop. But it then increases if you continue to keep on fasting for 2 days, for 3 days, for 4 days. If you keep on going, it then has no choice, as you aren't releasing any bile in your stomach because you're not eating. Biological chemicals, the hazardous biological chemicals begin to build up, and those are the ones that can harden and turn into the gallstones. So if you are very concerned about that, I would suggest not doing fasts more than just a day or two, and keeping it at a very minimum around 24 to 48 hours max. So has intermittent fasting met its arch nemesis? It's possible. Of all the people who have stated that this can happen because you intermittent fast, or this can happen, all those things have had no definitive studies to back that information. This, however, has studies, but nothing that can definitively say that it happens. For example, there's a Ramadan study that looked at thousands of people and looked at during the times that they do the Ramadan fasting and during the times where they don't do the Ramadan fasting, and they saw no considerable changes in the bile in the gallbladder at all, and nothing that caused any hazardous change or anything to that nature. So you have to take into effect the hereditary factor of it, and also the body does create mechanism to counteract the fact that you're not eating to protect your gallbladder. But if you push the envelope too far, it may push your body to a point where it cannot protect you anymore in respect to creating gallstones. So I hope this was super informative for you. I had to touch on this subject. I did a lot of research for this to be able to provide you this answer that I provided you, but I want you guys to be as safe as possible and understand the limitations that come with anything, the limitations that even fasting can provide. But know that it's manageable, and know that this is more on a hypothesis side, but you still have to keep in mind that these are studies that have been done over the years, since back in 1980 all the way up to 2013 with the meta-analysis. And I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon, and I'm going to put their names right up here. And of course, as always, guys, I will see you on Wednesday for another FAQ. Peace!